Ready, go.
Hello and welcome to the Ramp It Up webinars. We are on section 4, the ASCA Mindsets and Behaviors for Student Success. I'm Karen Griffith.
And I'm Mark Carantz.
This particular component is worth 4 points of the total application. So we're going to go over some highlights and points to help you get all 4 of those points when you are working on your RAMP application.
So we want to make a disclaimer that you should always make sure that you check the website to ensure that you're using the most current RAMP rubric. Not that it changes on a monthly basis, but sometimes there are changes made, and we want to make sure you're using the most current form, because the RAMP rubric really kind of guides your application. And regardless of whether the rubric changes a little bit, and only changes a little bit, there aren't major changes, that what we're talking about here, the concepts and procedures are going to apply.
So the mindsets and behaviors are a big paradigm shift from the old standards and competencies. This is a new way of looking at how we drive students towards their success. If you check the ASCA National Model book, on page 29, you will see the old standards and competencies. The mindsets and behaviors have replaced them. On the implementation guide, look at page 57 to understand these mindsets and behaviors and what they now mean for student success. It's based on key research, and one of the most important pieces of the research is this document entitled Teaching Adolescents to Become Learners. Well, just looking at the title, you can see this is something that we need to be engaged in. It's the role of non-cognitive factors in shaping school performance. This is where school counselors live. The summary of this research looks at what generates those academic mindsets, the academic perseverance, the behaviors, and the performance. And look at what's in the blue box. All of those come into being through learning strategies, study skills, metacognitive strategies, self-regulated learning, time management, goal setting. Those are the very things that school counselors use and teach and focus on throughout the school year. This research validates that what we're doing isn't just nice to know, nice to do, it's essential for them to become learners. Additionally, they linked social skills to the development of positive academic behaviors and academic performance. Again, look at the things that's associated under social skills: interpersonal, empathy, cooperation, assertion, and responsibility. This is where school counselors live. This is our wheelhouse. This is what we do. This research links what we're doing to academic success.
So it's exciting research because it really affirms what we've always known is critical to the process of being a successful learner. Now, like Karen said, it's not nice, it's essential. So the ASCA Mindsets and Behaviors for Student Success. Look at the list here. You know, they really help us decide what kinds of skills, what kinds of attitudes, what kind of knowledge do students need in order to be successful learners. It's not what we think anymore. It's based on research and best practice. So we can become very purposeful. We can really become very intentional with what we're teaching to accomplish our goals, to impact the attendance, behavior, achievement for all students. There are 35 mindsets and behaviors, and we will show you in a second what those documents look like. But again, I think the key piece here is that it really makes us purposeful and intentional and really helps us identify and capture the impact we have on helping kids kind of wrap their heads and minds around what good learning looks like. And they really inform and drive our perception data assessments. So the mindsets and behavior rubric is pretty straightforward. Make sure that they link to the school counseling program goals, vision, and mission. Are they going to have an impact on student achievement, and are they developmentally appropriate?
So this is the list of the 35 mindsets and behaviors. You'll see that there are 6 in the mindsets, and then there's the remaining 29 in the behavior standards. The behavior standards are separated into 3 distinct categories: learning strategies, self-management skills, and social skills. Combined, they create 35 statements. And this is the planning tool, and this is what you submit in this component of the application. And for this component, you take these 35 statements that are listed on this planning tool, and you're going to define how and when you address any of them, each of them, in your comprehensive counseling program. You might address the first one, the belief and development of the whole self, in an academic lesson, a career lesson, a social emotional lesson, all 3. It might be delivered in a classroom lesson, in a small group, in individual student planning. It might be done in a specific grade level, all grade levels. You make decisions for how and when these show up, how they're delivered, what grade levels address each one. There's no requirement that all 35 are included in your program, but there is a requirement that all grade levels get some of them.
So one of the things I love about the new ASCA National Model Implementation Guide on page 59, you'll see some do's and don'ts. I think, again, this is a really good reflective tool to help you kind of think about, are your mindsets and behaviors representative of the work you do. I think it's really important, and it's stated there, it's not necessary to address all 35 in one grade level or work setting, but they should be evident across a K-12 experience. So don't choose them all. Don't choose too many. Look at the do's. Use the mindsets and behaviors to create perception assessments. Use your mindsets and behaviors to guide the content of what you deliver. So if you look at the mindsets and behaviors and you say that to accomplish the goal that we've written, our students need to develop organization, time management skills, that's going to then be reflected in the interventions and activities you do to accomplish that goal. So you're teaching organization and time management to impact the goal that you've written.
I want to go back, that under don't, that check only, let's go back to the planning tool. And what that's referencing is we don't want you to just put a check mark in these boxes. The very best planning tools help you remember how you do it. So you might put CC for core curriculum, SG for small group, ISP for individual student planning, or whatever method of delivery. But that really conveys that there's meaning and a definitive plan for addressing whatever you have chosen in a meaningful way. A check mark just may or may not reflect that. So do more than check. Identify how you're going to deliver the content around that.
So core curriculum with 3rd grade is a really specific, concrete, clear way to communicate it.
Yes.
And you'll see that in some of the examples in the implementation guide. So you need to use the rubric to score, and the mindset planning tool. So when you have your mindsets and behavior planning tool completed, look at the criteria. Are they developmentally appropriate? Do they reference or reflect your vision, mission, and goals? I should be able to look at your goals and see which mindsets and behaviors are driving those goals. I think it's really important in using the mindsets and behavior planning tool that you don't think of it as an event. Sit down at the end of the year and try to remember all the mindsets and behaviors that were addressed through your core curriculum with 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. You want to be able to record the mindsets and behaviors that you're addressing in your 3rd grade curriculum on an ongoing basis. And so then it doesn't become this overwhelming kind of tool that you have to complete. And then once it's completed, it really becomes kind of a reflective piece to say, so how'd we do? Well, is it reflecting our goals and mission? Is it aligned with our school improvement plan? How are we going to move forward? It becomes a very kind of focused, purposeful, helpful tool to improve continuously your program. So here's the example, and and Karen made a really good suggestion. So demonstrate perseverance to achieve long and short-term goals is happening in some academic work with 7th graders, and it's happening with 8th graders in the career domain. Now you could even make this a stronger document by saying CC, and then there'd be a little key that says core curriculum with 8th graders. We were focusing on demonstrating perseverance to achieve long and short-term goals. So it's reflective of your core curriculum, small group, and individual responsive services.
This is the part about the narrative, and again, you take the narrative rubric, which is at the top, and you turn it into how to write your paragraph about the mindsets and behaviors. So if you look at the narrative at the top, we turned it into 3 bulleted points for how you would frame that narrative component of the mindsets and behaviors. You're going to talk about how they were selected. You don't select all. So how did you make the decisions about which ones matter to you, your setting, your students, your environment? Which ones were omitted and why? How did they serve the population as a foundation for your lessons, your groups, your closing the gap? All of your counseling activities need to be tied back to those mindsets and behaviors. And you can talk about that during your narrative. And then how are you reviewing and revising them every year? This is not a document that is done and set aside. This is a living, breathing, working document that you are always looking back, reviewing, making new decisions about.
So this narrative is going to have 3 very distinct paragraphs that are going to address these 3 points. So mindsets and behavior pitfalls, you identify them all. That's not rational or reasonable. You're in elementary, K through 3 setting, and you don't do anything with 2nd graders. So you're not addressing all grade levels. And remember, this is a process. So you may do your mindsets and behavior planning tool, and at the end of the year, you're going to look at it and say, we really need to do more with 2nd graders. And over time, it's going to capture more of everything you do. And you're going to become more intentional in terms of, we need to do more with the 3rd graders. And the narrative doesn't talk about what was the process you went through to prioritize which mindsets and behaviors you selected. You're going to talk about your school improvement plan and where there are some gaps and some growth needs to happen, and you're going to select mindsets and behaviors that align with those concerns or those needs in the school improvement plan. You're going to look at your student data profile and see that when you look at it, there is a significant increase from 4th grade to 5th grade in terms of behavior referrals. So what are the mindsets and behaviors that are maybe lacking or missing in terms of those kids' growth and development that we need to address?
And one more regarding the too many. You don't want to fall into the trap of checking all that apply, because probably you could find a way to make all 35 of them link up to every single thing you do. You've got to be more intentional about that. Each lesson, each small group, each intervention probably really only strongly linked to 1 or 2, maybe 3. Don't go beyond that. Be intentional, be selective. Highlighting everything is the same as highlighting nothing. Be selective, be thoughtful, and be intentional about what you're delivering and why. We hope this helped you as you complete the mindsets and behaviors component of your application. We wish you the very best of luck, and we're grateful that you joined us today.
Thank you.